Great British summers. They may not come often, but when they do, people across the nation start shedding not only their clothes, but their inhibitions too.
It's absolutely gorgeous!
That summer was an amazing experience. It was an amazing year.
It's a time to challenge convention, cast out the old and bring in the new. And if summertime is party time, the scorching summer of 1989 was one long party from beginning to end. Young people were turning their backs on the rat race and throwing themselves into a hedonistic rush of new music and new drugs.
Acid House was as big as punk. It was as big a youth explosion as has ever taken place in this country.
We are going to change the world. We're going to make everyone happy people. We're going to make everyone like us.
The atmosphere was amazing. The way everybody came together was amazing. And you just felt like your generation had found its expression.
And all around the world, other people were finding theirs. From pro-democracy movements in China to breaking down borders in Eastern Europe.
I am free!
Britain's homegrown youth revolution sent shivers up the spine of Middle England.
One of the things I remember as Home Secretary, particularly in the early days, was being told that a long heat wave meant trouble.
Let me take you to a place I know you wanna go. It's a good life.
1989 saw the hottest, sunniest and driest May for 300 years.
A lot of dry weather around, a lot of sunshine. Certainly a very warm afternoon just about everywhere, 28 in places.
Temperatures at least as high as today, if not a degree higher.
It was so hot, the flowers were wilting at the Chelsea Flower Show.
The old hands have never known a year like it. Phew, what a scorcher.
But the warm weather wasn't the only thing to celebrate. Mrs. Thatcher was celebrating her 10th year in power, and thanks to her policies, a lot of people had made a lot of money.
I look back on the summer of 1989 and what I see is a vista of money. There was masses of it, and it all kind of ran around in races and stripy shirts, and they were yuppies.
What sort of a car have you got?
I've got a BMW.
Being seriously rich is seen as being a very interesting and clever occupation.
It seemed as if Britain in the 80s had embraced a new set of values. The once powerful trade unions had been tamed. Now, survival of the fittest was the order of the day.
We suddenly became individuals, and it no longer mattered what background we came from. If you had it within you and you were ambitious, you could get on and make your life.
By the summer of '89, an entire generation of young people had grown up under Tory rule. Thatcher's children were encouraged to value individual prosperity above all else.
It's more socially acceptable to be selfish, to say, I want money, I want a house, I want a car, to have all these things. It's far more socially acceptable to be allowed to be greedy.
It was a time when what kind of job you could get, what kind of career you could follow, how you could make money, seemed to be most important. There was pretty widespread feeling of political apathy, perhaps not just amongst the young people, but particularly amongst younger people.
It felt like nothing was ever going to change. We had the Iron Lady in charge, the lady who was not for turning, who was never going to change her mind about anything. We had 3 general elections in which she won by landslides. And there was a real sense that this is what life is now, just get used to it.
But not everyone had a stake in this economic miracle. And while the rich were getting richer, the poor were worse off. For many, Thatcherism had a hollow ring.
Around that time we had Mrs. Thatcher saying there's no such thing as society, and it did seem to be that out there in the kind of big wide political world it was every man for himself, and there was a kind of breakdown really in people taking kind of responsibility for each other, all kind of feeling that we were all in it together.
So this is how it feels to be lonely. This is how it feels to be small.
Britain was was a very grey, grim place. You know, I mean, now we think of people making lots of money in the city and sort of cocktails, Club Tropicana atmosphere, but that was very much a small elite of people in central London. Elsewhere, there wasn't a lot to do. There were an awful lot of restrictions. You felt boxed in.
But by the summer of '89, young people were beginning to break free of these constraints. A new underground dance scene, Acid House, was turning from a low-level rumble in the capital into a youth movement on a massive national scale.
You'd be out till 9 o'clock in the morning and feeling like you were part of something different. You were part of this secret movement that, you know, overground, the normal man in the street didn't know what he was up to.
The scene was defined by a new look, a new drug, and a new sound, house music. At 120 beats per minute, it was the perfect dance track.
It wasn't hard to dance to Acid House. All you had to do was wave your hands in the air and jump up and down, so suddenly everybody could have a go.
It was the first time I realised white people could actually dance. Do you know what I mean? Because there was this thing that white people couldn't dance.
It had a real trance-like element to it. And I think it was that sort of extra dimension that you got into. You went somewhere else in your head. People did believe that their consciousness was being expanded.
Helping ravers achieve this altered state was a drug which seemed perfectly suited to the new dance culture.
Enjoy this trip. And it is a trip.
Ecstasy was a widely available, easy-to-pop little white pill.
I think that a lot of different scenes come hand in hand with certain drugs, especially when you're talking about music, and as sad as that may seem, it's just fact. Ecstasy, without a doubt, was the drug of choice, the way that it kind of made people throw away their inhibitions, the loved-upness.
Well, I think one of the key things about ecstasy is it was very difficult to drink alcohol once you'd had a pill because you got dehydrated, so you drank water. So there was no one getting drunk. There was no one getting aggressive. So that was what it wasn't. And what it did do was it gave you a whole sense of openness and of love.
While everybody was on E, everybody was in this hugely empathic state, and if you were at a party with 20,000 people all on the same drug, it was incredible, but you could go to that party and not be on that drug and still feel that feeling.
This sense of togetherness had a particular attraction for young people feeling isolated by the Thatcherite values of the 80s.
I always think that youth cultures in some way go the opposite way from the prevailing cultural mode, political cultural mode. At a time when we're all individualist, and you know, Thatcher's created the modern Essex man with his mobile phone and his greed, that a sense of unity and community was going to be the obvious antipathy to that, and that came with this incredibly communal drug.
Like youth movements before it, the rave scene came with its own uniform.
It was all about baggy, it was all about fluoro. Really, really bad taste clothes. We're talking the late 80s here.
Dungarees, oh my God. So unladylike. I don't know what we were thinking, but the baggier the better, the bigger the better, the more freedom the better, I guess.
When you looked out from the stage, you could just see this sea of colour. Purple and green and all these rainbow colours, man. So that was a part of that feeling special. The uniform, you know, was part of the movement, man.
Together with the great music has to be a certain clothing look, a drug, politics with a small p. And certainly Acid House had that as strongly as punk had had it before.
Challenging the values of society wasn't purely a British phenomenon that summer. All over Eastern Europe, a peaceful revolution was taking place which would have profound global consequences. Millions were rejecting communism and taking their first steps towards democracy.